On this episode of LVAD Talk, we talk with Sonia Leon. We discover how she discovered she had heart failure, waking up with her LVAD, making lifestyle adjustments after implant, GI bleeds, and having her LVAD decommissioned. Life after LVAD. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of LVAD Talks. I am your host, Sean, and I am here today with our guest, Sonia Leon. Did I say it right?
Yes, you did.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing very good.
So
How are you?
I'm awesome. You reached out to me, and it seems like you have a very interesting story.
It's a little, complicated. Yes.
All right, so let's start at the beginning. How did you discover you had heart failure?
Well, I discovered it after I woke up in the hospital already implanted with an LVAD. So I was never prepared for this. Yes. For me, it just kind of came about. I guess a virus got me. And I know that it's not a very common occurrence, but being in the LVAD Facebook group, I have come across a couple of other people who have had that happen to them as well. Of course, nobody is exactly the same, right? But the way that's different for us is, well, at least for me, is I never had any previous heart problems before that. I was exercising 5 days a week. I was doing yoga, swimming, biking, lifting weights. I was very fit. And 3 days after celebrating Christmas, I started to feel just regular flu-like symptoms, sore throat, fever, fatigue, that sort of thing. Not too long after that, I went into cardiac arrest at my home. So it wasn't in the hospital.
Okay.
From then on, I guess my family kind of took over. Thankfully, there was one person with me that called 911. And I later found out that you have very little time to make it if you have a cardiac arrest outside of the hospital. So luckily, everybody acted very quickly, and I was taken to the hospital. But I guess at that first hospital, they didn't have the proper personnel to, take care of me. So they sent me to another hospital, and there I was implanted with the LVAD.
During this whole time, were you out?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I don't remember a thing. So I guess they were trying to bring me back, was the story, in the ambulance. And the first hospital, they were trying to stabilize me. I did get a balloon pump in, and then I was on ECMO. And then afterwards, the LVAD was what was decided for me. My parents had to sign consent for that.
Oh, wow. So, okay, you get to the second hospital. I guess they do emergency surgery on you. How long was it after that you woke up and became aware?
You know what? I'm not exactly sure. Because, you wake up, you don't know what day it is.
Right.
And you can't talk, you can't move. You don't know what's going on, where you are. The only thing I knew was that I was feeling sick. I didn't realize that it had anything to do with my heart until the nurses would come in and would start to tell me, this happened to you, that happened to you. And I was just in shock because I'm like, what are you talking about? All I had was like the flu or whatever, I didn't, what is all this? It was kind of like a nightmare situation, to be honest with you, taking it all in.
Right, yeah. So how long did you have to originally stay in the hospital after you got your LVAD?
I would say it was about a month and a half, somewhere around there, just to learn how to walk again. Eat again. My mom had to kind of feed me like I was a little kid again.
Right.
And just they have to train you on how to change your batteries and how to, they had to train your caregivers and anybody who's willing to learn how to change batteries, how to clean your dressing, all those things. So it took some time.
So since you weren't a previous cardiac patient, once you got home and started to recover, did you notice a difference?
Difference in,
The way you felt before and after?
oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, initially it's nothing but pain, right? So much pain. And now I have to take a bunch of pills, which before I didn't have to take anything. I mean, I never even went to the doctor before that. So it was a whole new life. It really is, because now when you first get home, you have nurses coming every day, not to mention all the blood they take out of you for tests and things like that. So yeah, it was very different. I went from being completely fit, no health problems, to in a matter of days, now I have an LVAD.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's a huge difference.
What was your initial recovery like?
Um, just trying to be able to do things on my own again, because I live on my own, so not having to need to depend on other people. That was something that I would really strive for.
Mm-hmm.
But it was hard because, again, you have to learn how to walk again and do all those things again.
Wow, wow. All right, so you are different. You share one of a few distinctions that not many of us can say. You actually have had your LVAD decommissioned.
Yes.
Tell us about
Yes.
that.
Um,
Like
that was
what led up to that point?
so it was definitely something that affected me emotionally and mentally. Not gonna lie, I started to recover pretty quickly, and the surgeon had said as soon as he implanted me that he thinks I survived because of my healthy lifestyle previous to that. Um, but I'm sorry, I'm losing my train of thought. What was the question again?
How
The
did it
decommission.
how
That's
did it
right.
lead up to being
I
decommissioned?
started to recover pretty quickly because you go into cardiac rehab pretty soon after, and that's when I started to exercise again. I had a couple scary moments, with vertigo and feeling lightheaded, and because I wasn't used to that. I'm used to what I'm used to. I know what I can do, what my body can do. And so I kind of was trying to get back into it, but very quickly my body held me back. I would pass out a couple times. So I had to really start from the beginning. I was lifting weights before. I had to start from just squeezing, what is that, putty it's
Yeah,
called?
yeah,
You got that?
yeah.
So I felt like I was demoted, from where I was physically. But slowly I came back up. My recovery was pretty quickly after that, within just a few months. So I was implanted on January 2nd, 2015.
Okay.
And by May, they were already talking decommissioning. Also because I had a history of GI bleeds, and I know that's kind of a common thing with
Yeah.
LVAD patients. So for me, the GI bleeds were constant. It was no matter what we did, I was having blood transfusions all the time. I was severely anemic. I was in and out of the hospital. My hemoglobin was always so low. I was always pale white. So it got to a point where the doctors were realizing that maybe the LVAD is causing a little more harm than good at that point, because my heart had already recovered more than they thought it ever would.
Sure.
So that's when they started talking about either explant or decommission.
Wow.
And that conversation alone took several months to decide what we wanted to do, just because they themselves didn't know what was the best thing to do. They didn't want to have to explant me and then I'm going to need another one, that whole thing, or if I would even survive that procedure.
Right.
But we needed to take care of the GI bleeds, which was all the time in and out of the hospital for at least a year and a half with that.
Mm-hmm.
In May, it ended up being when they checked the pressures with the right heart cath.
Mm-hmm.
Turns out I didn't test well enough to get it explanted or turned off. So I had to keep it for a while longer.
Okay.
It wasn't until August of 2016 that we decided to go ahead and just turn it off. Sure enough, almost immediately after that, the GI bleed stopped completely. I was the LVAD was no longer running, and I was taken off of Coumadin, which is the combo that causes GI bleeds.
Right.
They put me on what's that? I think it's called Eliquis, maybe.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Another blood thinner.
Yeah.
For a very short while, and now I'm just on baby aspirin.
So were they concerned about so they left the pump in place, they just turned it off?
Yes, they capped it. And then I went back to my room, and then the very next day I had another surgeon go in and cut the drive line. Wow. So it was like a 2-procedure stay that time for that. To me, it was worth it because, no more batteries. Mm-hmm. I can shower no problem without having to prepare like an hour before.
Right.
All those things that you think you would never experience again because you have an LVAD. Wow. So I feel a lot more normal nowadays that I've been decommissioned. I know a lot of people that are confronted with that decision. It's a hard decision to make. Mm-hmm. It really is, especially when you're talking to your doctors and they themselves are not sure what the best thing is for you.
And the LVAD surgery in the first place is a hard surgery to go through.
Yeah, initially though, I didn't have to really prepare myself for it because it was an emergency thing for me. So it was a very scary moment.
Wow, I got a lot of questions about that. So
go for it.
Your recovery from having it decommissioned, was it as what I want to say, was it as hard as it was from the original LVAD surgery?
No. By the time I was decommissioned, I was already doing well enough to get it turned off, which means my EF had gotten up to, I believe, I think it was about 40-45%. Mm-hmm. So once I reached that and it stayed there for a while, that's when they decided, you know what, let's turn it off, see what happens. I mean, they were pretty sure that I was going to be okay, but the concern at that point was the GI bleeds because I couldn't get them to stop at all.
I mean, far as the recovery of the physical surgery itself?
Not really a whole lot of downtime. Mm-hmm. I think more than anything, I was just excited that I wasn't going to have batteries anymore. So it helped.
Right.
I was feeling a lot better. I know some, people that know they're going to get an LVAD, it's because they're doing so bad with their heart failure that they are left with no choice sometimes. Mm-hmm. I didn't have that choice. It just happened kind of overnight.
Right.
And I had to learn all about it after I had it. And I went from there. But no, the recovery from just being decommissioned, it was really nothing. Mm-hmm.
Do you think that given the choice, you would have chosen to get the LVAD?
And yes, I had no choice. It was that or you're gone.
Yeah.
My parents, that's what they were confronted with, unfortunately.
Right. So you don't have any problems with any clotting or anything since they've stopped the pump?
The very first, when I woke up after getting decommissioned in the hospital, I felt kind of okay. So I remember I got up to use the washroom. Mm-hmm. And I was happy because, again, no batteries.
Right.
You don't have all these wires. Yeah, right. I'm like, oh my God, it felt kind of weird, but I liked it. And so that's all I was thinking about at the time, but I ended up passing out in the bathroom. Maybe I got up too fast, I don't know, but they really didn't give me any kind of guidelines or anything. The nurse herself, she's like, kind of confused, like, you have an LVAD? I don't see your batteries, Right. So they themselves sometimes don't know anything about those things. So we have to be, cautious.
Did you have a defibrillator or ICD?
Nope.
Okay.
Again, perfectly fit before LVAD.
So have you gone back to your fitness lifestyle?
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely. My first job was at a gym when I was 15 years old,
Okay.
and I've been really working out ever since.
Yeah.
Unless I couldn't, such as recovery from LVAD and stuff like that. But other than that, I'm very active, very
How
fit.
long?
I love to exercise.
How long has it been since you've been decommissioned?
I was decommissioned August of 2016.
Okay.
So I'm going on 5 years now.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So no going back for you, right?
Hopefully not. Hopefully not. They did say that it was a possibility.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the reasons they chose to not explant me is because they said that um, it would be very difficult for me to be reimplanted
Mm-hmm.
after an explant, just because your heart is different
Yeah.
after that.
Yeah.
So it may not fit. You probably won't have the choice for LVAD in the future if you decide to remove it.
Do you have to go through any kind of maintenance, or it's just hanging out?
Maintenance, like I'm a car or something.
Well, we are borderline
Yeah,
cyborgs, so yeah.
I know, and I still have it inside,
Uh-huh.
so it's just not working. But I'm still on medication, heart meds, to continue to strengthen my heart, because just because I'm decommissioned doesn't mean that I'm recovered 100%.
Right.
I was recovered enough to get decommissioned just because I was having the GI bleeds as a side effect
Mm-hmm.
that was starting to turn out to be a little bit of a worse thing for me in my condition. Again, everybody's different. But for me, um, that was the only thing that they saw that would help the GI bleeds.
Mm-hmm.
I really wasn't having any problems with the LVAD as far as like infections or clotting, like you said, or the LVAD was functioning perfectly fine. But the GI bleeds was just a constant thing. I could not stop it.
Do you remember which kind of LVAD you had?
Yes, I had heartware.
Hardware. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So how long was it once you got it decommissioned that you went and jumped into a pool?
I want to say right away, because I was used to swimming for exercise quite a bit. So yeah, as soon as I got the chance, but that shower, that
Yeah.
first shower,
For
where
me, it's
you don't
gonna
have to
be
put a Tegaderm.
yeah.
I don't have to, hang my shower bag somewhere. I had a kind of like this shower bar installed in my shower so that I could hold my shower bag on there and I didn't have to carry it while I showered. But I mean, it's still a lot of prep, the Tegaderm. And then after that, you need an immediate dressing change, which meant that I needed to have someone there, usually my mom. My mom was my main caregiver the whole time. And she did an excellent job. She kept the area clean, no infections. Everybody was impressed with how she kept it. And she didn't want anyone else messing with it.
Yeah.
Except for her.
Because she get to take pride in that. Yeah.
She did.
And she could tell if somebody else did it too.
Yeah. She'll be like, you know what? They didn't clean you very good last time you were in there. So I was very lucky to have her.
Nice. Yeah, my overall goal is I want to take a bath.
It's really nice.
Yeah.
I know that when I did have the batteries still, I remember I missed it so much that I filled up the tub, not all the way, just a little bit, so that when I sat in it, it wouldn't even come up, that high. But it gave me a little bit of that feeling of sitting in some warm water.
Yeah.
But to have that shower where it's not an issue, it was nice. I mean, I still had to wait for the site to heal.
You're right, before you can shower.
Which took, I don't even remember, maybe a couple months.
Yeah, it was about 2 months for me.
Maybe about 2 months.
Maybe a little bit longer than that. Not much.
Did you get a transplant?
No, I'm still rocking my bag. I'm waiting on transplant.
Still rocking your bag.
I'm in the point where I'm trying to. I need to lose some more weight.
Okay.
My BMI
they want you
is
perfect,
too high.
right?
Yeah, my BMI is too high. And
I was worked up for.
I'm a big guy, but I'm a small big guy.
Yeah. But
Right.
they nitpick on those things, I
Yeah.
feel. They had worked me up for transplant twice
Okay.
because I did go to two different hospitals.
Mm-hmm.
And so they had put me on the list immediately.
Mm-hmm.
But once they seen how well my heart started to recover, they just removed me from the list. They're like, it doesn't look like you're going to need it. And I was faced with possible forgot something they had said they had to do because I was no longer a candidate because of all the blood that I had received from the
Oh,
transfusion,
the
the blood
antibodies,
transfusion.
was it too many? Okay.
Yeah. So I had received so much blood the whole year before that they're like, we're going to have to do this and that. And so you could maybe get a transplant. So I'm lucky that in the end, I didn't need it. I mean, at least right now.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Yeah, that's one of my struggles right now, and COVID didn't help. So actually, today was the first day I was able to go back to the gym.
Okay.
I had got to the point where before I was not a gym person. That was not anything I wanted to do. But I started getting serious about my whole transplant. So the not last year because last year was all we were out. The year before, I had got into a schedule where I worked out 5 days a week. I worked it into I dropped the kids off school and I'll just go straight to the gym.
Mm-hmm.
And after a while, you get used to it.
Oh, yeah.
So when COVID happened, I was like, hold up, what do you mean I can't go to the gym? I want to
Right.
go to the gym.
I ended up canceling my membership because of that, and I'll tell
Uh-huh.
you why. Because they didn't allow us to work out without a mask
Right,
anymore,
right,
and I know that I'm decommissioned and all, but I still have shortness of breath. So I still have some lingering heart failure symptoms
right.
with this. I'm not completely recovered. I
Mm,
know it looks that way because I don't carry my bag and I don't have to do all those other things. But I guess I don't know if those will ever go away.
mm-hmm.
They weren't things that I had before my LVAD surgery, but now I guess this is my normal.
Okay.
So when that happened at the gym, I couldn't work out. I couldn't be on the treadmill with a mask.
Yeah.
I couldn't breathe. So I was like, this isn't gonna work for me. I canceled the membership and I just work out at home now.
Yeah, I
And
just
I'm in
tried it.
Chicago, so when the weather's nice, I
uh,
can go out and work outside.
Yeah. I tried it today. I started wearing the N95 mask and that wasn't that bad. It seals up a lot better. Um, but I don't do like a full out sprint run anyway.
Oh, I
So,
don't run either.
mm-mm.
I only walk.
If I run, something's bad is about to happen.
Yeah.
It's a
And you
dog.
definitely got to listen to your body.
Right.
I learned that real quick because I was passing out all the time. I'm like, all right, so I can't do what I used to do. I'm gonna have to start from the beginning.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. So, wow, you just got me speechless right there. Um, so what are your plans now for the future?
Um, you know, one of the things that I did want to mention on this podcast is how this affects you mentally. And I
Yes.
don't know that you've had much dialogue about this. I've watched some of your episodes, but not all of them. And for me, initially, it was about the physical recovery. I tried anything and everything that I could. I listened to whatever they told me to do to try to do it. I did my best because I didn't want to have to have an LVAD. I didn't want to, you know, have those limitations.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't used to it. So I focused 100% on recovering. And I think that I got to a point where I recovered enough for, many things to return back to normal. But now I feel like mentally, I have to recover from that too.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like there's some like PTSD going
Yeah.
on.
Uh-huh.
I get triggered, just when I'm either out or whatever it is that I'm doing on an everyday basis, things will trigger me. And next thing I know, in my mind, I'm laying in that hospital again,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm like, okay, how long have I been thinking about this, and I start to remember all the feelings and I get emotional.
Yeah.
So for me, I feel like focusing more on the mental recovery for me is something that I'm more focused on right now.
And that is something that we have to go through so much to get to LVAD, and they have to do so many tests and um, like so. I had a choice. I didn't have much of a choice. I had a choice, but when I went to the hospital, I had like 3 days, and they was like, "Do you want the LVAD or not?" And then they kind of had to explain. But during that time, I had to have. Oh, they tested me. They took wisdom teeth out, all kinds of CT scans, because they want to make sure there's nothing else that would go
Right.
wrong while they got you, and that's major surgery.
Yes.
So they checked me from my head to my toe. But one of the things I think that could be um, implemented a little bit better is the mental health side of it. Especially if, like, so in my case, I had kids. So my kids were my major motivation. But sometimes it's hard for other people to get motivated to do what you have to do to be able to
Yes.
sustain yourself after this is all over with.
Yes. I
Because the
agree.
surgery is just part of it. That's just the beginning.
Right. And I remember when I first got implanted, they had put me on antidepressants and anti-anxiety meds. And when I when I was finally able to kind of talk, and I started to ask, like, what are all these pills you're giving me? Because
Mm.
there's so many. I need to know what you're putting in my body. And so the heart meds and all that, I'm like, all right, fine. I really can't argue with that. But then when I heard of the antidepressants and anti-anxiety and all that, and I'm like, you know what? I don't need any of that.
Mm.
I don't have, issues with that. And in the beginning, I didn't, because again, I was so focused on recovering physically.
Mm.
But now that I've gotten to this point, I think mentally it's starting to affect me a little more.
Have you searched out a therapist?
Uh, Not yet. Um, this is something kind of new for me,
Mm.
so, but I do notice that I zone in on those memories.
Mm.
And
I've talked
sometimes
to
it's difficult
I've
to
talked to a
turn
couple
around.
people who said that was part of their recovery. They had to go through therapy.
I mean, if it works, yeah.
Mm.
I usually just counsel myself.
Because PTSD is real. You don't have to be on a battlefield
I mean,
to.
it took me a little bit to even recognize that that was happening to me.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, okay, this wasn't something that happened to me before, previously. But then again, I have to remember, like, this is a whole new different life for me.
Yeah.
Like, your life completely changes after an event like that, you know?
Yeah.
So I'm taking it one day at a time.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I can do.
But I want to start doing I'm working out the whole technical um, way I'm gonna do it, but I want to start having roundtables too, where it could be multiple of us sitting here discussing, because
Yes.
nobody can tell us if you haven't been through it. You can't. I don't think you can. You can try to understand, but if you haven't been through it, it's something that's really hard to understand.
And it's something that even when you're talking about it, you can't talk about everything that
Mm.
you experience in one sitting.
Yeah, it's so
And
much.
it
Yeah.
changes as
Mm-hmm.
time goes by. And this is what I'm realizing is that my recovery has changed, but I'm still recovering.
Yeah, and everybody's like I told you, everybody's story is different.
It is.
So I might experience something that you haven't, but it might help you down the road,
Yes.
and
And
vice versa.
Sean, one of the reasons that I reached out to you, honestly, was because I remember when I woke up and I couldn't talk, I couldn't, move or anything. I had trouble just what is that thing? The control that you use to call the nurses.
The blue
You
button.
just like press a button.
Yeah.
I couldn't even press them.
Okay.
I was so weak. I couldn't move. And not knowing anything about what an LVAD was at that point, just knowing that it was now in my heart,
Mm-hmm.
I had no way of educating myself other than just waiting around to see what someone was willing to tell me, because in the beginning, they were also very apprehensive about that because it would cause me to kind of, my heart start racing when I would hear about what they had to do to me and what was going on with me. Because, remember, I had none of these problems before. Mm-hmm. I went from being 100% perfectly fine to the next day, you have an LVAD in your heart.
Right.
What?
Right.
What is that? What do you mean my heart? Like, I didn't even know there was anything wrong with my heart. So it's a lot to take in, and I didn't have a way to look for info. Mm-hmm. I couldn't pick up my phone. I couldn't do any of that. But your podcast is just something I could listen to. If I had that, I could have just had someone turn it on and just let it play. Yeah. And that, I think, could have offered me a little bit of consolation at the time, because I just didn't know what to do in the beginning. Well, I was just trying to take it all in.
I thank you, because that was the point. That was the point. When it was time for me, I'm a big Googler. When it was time for me to look for something, it wasn't too much there. You can find anything on YouTube. Well, if you search for LVAD, all you get is a whole lot of medical videos.
And yes.
So
and that's different because you don't always understand what the doctors are saying. Mm-hmm. But when you're talking to someone who's also a patient, has gone through it, like you said, I think it's a little more relatable.
Yeah. It makes you. It's more of a human side to it than the technical or medical jargon that you get. They mean well, but
absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, they mean well. They try.
Yes, they do, and they're great.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for them.
Yeah.
So they really did save my life when it was becoming very difficult to do so, because again, I went into cardiac arrest outside of the hospital. I mean, you have not a whole lot of time to save a person when that happens to them.
Yeah.
So believe me, I am happy I'm here.
And we are happy you're here too.
Thank you.
So how can the listeners get in touch with you? What is your social media or anything you want to share?
Facebook, Sonia Leon.
Okay.
Very simple. I know several have reached out just because of the decommissioning.
Yeah.
It just seems like, how did you get there? How do you feel? And I do have heart failure symptoms now, shortness of breath. But let me tell you something. The exercise helps immensely.
Yes. Yeah.
When there are days that I don't go very long without exercising, to be honest with you. But if I don't exercise for maybe 1, 2, 3 days, I feel like my heart starts falling asleep. Mm-hmm. And to try to wake it up to do a simple task, I feel it. Like I'm like, what is this? I didn't have to feel this challenged before. Just trying to do something simple.
I can relate, because it feels like, especially since I've had this last year off of not consistently exercising, it's like I got to start all over again.
Yeah, when you don't exercise for a while, you definitely have to start all over again. And the beginning is always the hardest.
Right.
So that's why I try not to go very long without exercising. When I'm exercising consistently, I feel the most normal. Mm-hmm. When I say normal, it's almost no heart failure symptoms.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like today. It's different now though, because before when I started, I didn't know what to expect. So now I know that if I really wanted to do 45 minutes on treadmill, I can do 45 minutes. I just got to work myself up to it.
You got to warm up. Mm-hmm. I honestly, I learned from all the times I passed out, stretch first, warm up. And if it takes 20, 30 minutes to warm up, so be it. Mm-hmm. Your workout is going to be so much better if you take those initial steps.
Yes. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Sean. This is LVAD Talk. We've been speaking with Miss Sonia Leon. I thank you so much for your time and your story.
Thank you for having me.
And I want to have you back again.
Sure, anytime.
All right.
Looking forward to the roundtable.
Yeah. I'm trying to schedule that soon, because I've already got in mind who I want on it, and I'm just trying to figure out all the technical things to make it happen.
Sounds good.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is LVAD Talk, and we are out.